So I'm excited because I have a friend to talk to tonight. How are you?
Good, good. How are you? I'm very happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you. Please introduce yourself to our group.
Absolutely. My name is Eloy Javier Delgado. I'm a public school teacher from Elizabeth, New Jersey, work in Linden, and I'm running for Congress in the 8th Congressional District here in New Jersey as a strong progressive Democrat.
Awesome. So you go from herding kids, herding kids at school to herding cats in Congress. Like how? What? Just like let's just start with the how for a little bit. What motivated you to go from teaching to Congress?
Listen, this honestly, I got tired of just yelling at my TV screen about certain issues. I got tired of being frustrated in the classroom, seeing as teachers we don't have a voice in policy. We just have to, we're mules. We got to take out the policy. We got to just, we just got to follow orders and they don't listen to our voices. I'm tired of the poverty that exists in my community in the same neighborhoods that it existed when I was a kid, that it existed when 20
Yeah.
years before I was a kid. Like, we've been dealing with the same issues time and time again. I'm tired that at the local level, we are, you're from Jersey, so you probably know about this. Our
I'm not.
local,
I lived in Jersey. I'm not gonna play. I lived in Jersey for a year, but I was so excited because I know where you're at though, because my stepfather's from there. My
okay.
sister graduated from East Side High in Patterson, so like I know the area. So I was like, oh yeah, this is almost like home. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. You know, local elections here tend to be very nasty. They tend to get very
Mm,
personal. And we're not talking about income inequality. We're not talking about the persistent systemic poverty that exists in our communities and have existed in our urban centers for a very long time. Now, in my district, you are seeing a lot of new people move in, and that's great,
mm,
and I'm not, no disrespect to anyone moving in, like we welcome you, absolutely. However, we also need to pay attention that that's also displacing certain people that have been there for generations, and
yes.
we need to have federal policies that uplift all our residents, our current residents, while still accepting newcomers. But we need to not forget the residents that are there, that have been there and have been wiped out because of NAFTA, free trade, wiped out because they never had access to the American dream because of racism, poverty, and whether they were black, Latino, or whatever it may be.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
what motivated me, I got so frustrated, and I was paying attention to the presidential thing, but I'm not. When Hillary first announced, it was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. She'll be the nominee. It is what it is. All right. I mean, whatever. I'll just go. It'll be the same little changes we've been getting, sort of on the left for how many, like you said, 40, 50 years now.
Hmm.
Then this guy named Bernie Sanders appears out of nowhere. Like, I knew of him and I knew what he stood for, sort of, but I never looked into him that much. And then I looked into him. Then I looked
Right.
at the videos from 20 years ago, 30 years ago. He's talking about the poor. He's talking about gay rights before it was even like a thing to do. Like,
Exactly.
his consistency was just really inspired me, and the type of, if I'm elected, if I have the honor of getting the Democratic nomination and going on to November and then being elected, then I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a public servant, and that's what I think he has been, a public servant. Like, right now, I serve my students, I serve the taxpayers of that community that I work in, and that's the same mindset I want to have in public office, is I'm here to serve, not to be served, not to have a fancy title. And now I'm going to get on another tangent. In politics,
No, go ahead.
in politics, there is an inherent classist system set up. If you don't have the name, come from a family with the name, if you don't have the means to, like, for example, quit your job or have a spouse that has means to support you while you do what you got to do and serve, that's why we don't have middle class individuals going for public positions, which means by design we're not represented. The working
Hmm.
poor are not represented. I mean, when's the last time a poor cat ran for anything?
Truth.
And it was just not, I mean, I'm 27 now. It was just a few years ago. When did I buy my home? 23, 24, that I lived in public housing. Like
Okay.
I lived in public housing my entire life. So that's something that's
Mhm.
very personal for me. The
Okay.
first event that I did in this campaign was at my old neighborhood because it's just, I have family still there.
Nice.
I
Nice.
have not forgotten them. I have not forgotten those residents. And, a lot of the people there, a lot of them have mental illnesses and
Okay.
they get vilified. The way we treat the poor in our country is just not right. And I want to be a voice for them. Yeah, they're not the donors. They're not the donor class.
Right.
But for the last how many years, the Democratic Party used to be such a fierce party for the working middle class, for the poor, and something happened. Unfortunately, I want to say it was
Mhm.
probably Ronald Reagan. That he took the country completely. He was very effective changing the conversation of the country, and the
Mhm.
left, or I would say the Democratic Party, followed him that way. And then one of my frustrations with the party as is at the federal level is that Republicans will go hard for anything they want. They don't
Mhm.
compromise. What's compromise to them? They just go hard, they sell it, and they don't care. Democrats, we compromise with ourselves. Oh, the right's not going to accept it. So let's not go so hard. Let's just do this private insurance thing, for example, instead of pushing for Medicare for all, instead of pushing for a public option. Let's compromise with ourselves before we even get to the compromising table. There's,
Right.
it's one thing to compromise. It's another thing to compromise with yourself before you even get to the table. I mean, what's that
Mhm.
about? Okay, so I went on this big thing, but as you can see,
No, that was great. That was great. You started talking, so I started tweeting what you were saying. Like that is great. Like that is what so many of us have been talking about. I'm a little older than you. I call myself an old lady millennial. I turn 35 next week. But no, 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 no. But like that is so awesome because I did a millennial roundtable a couple weeks back with Christy
Mhm.
Matthews and Peter Jacobs and Bianca Pecco. And one of the things we were talking about was that, with younger people, they write us all off, right?
Yeah.
We're self-centered or we're this or we're not really interested in doing anything, but you have all these voices standing up saying, no, I grew up X, Y, and Z, or I've seen this, or I've seen this in my community, and we need change. Like, I've
Yeah.
grown up my whole life, and I've been told, like, growing up in the 80s, we were growing up under Reagan. I vaguely remember Reagan. I remember older Bush a little bit more, but like, seriously, like there was still this sense that we could still grow up, you could still do something, you could still make a difference if you worked really hard and you tried your best. Okay, I don't even know how we can tell kids today that because you can work really hard, you can get the good grades, and you can't afford to go to college. Like you can work really hard, you can get good grades, you can afford to go to college, but you might come out with a bunch of debt and a job that pays you not enough money, so you're in debt and you really can't do anything. So what you say was a tangent. I mean, we're the home of the rants, and you just had a brilliant. When you were saying that we compromise with ourselves before we even get to the negotiating table, I think that's so true because when you sell yourself short, when you start really low, there's no room. You can
Right.
only go lower. You start a little high and then you kind of, and that's one of the things I think I like about Bernie Sanders. And he said this too. That's why they called him the Amendment King. He would put stuff on the
Yep.
table and everybody would roll their eyes at him, but he would still be able to work in, what needed to be worked in meaningful legislative manner and ways. So that was definitely on point, everything you just said. So just thinking about your district, just tell me a little bit about your district, just a little bit more about your district. Well, tell us, because I know a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your district and kind of some of the issues that you're seeing that have not been addressed, you know, thus far,
Yeah.
or that you would like to see addressed better.
It's a predominantly working class district with
Mhm.
pockets of wealth. And one of the main issues now is that, like I was saying before, gentrification is happening very rapidly in many places of the district. And a lot of the current residents don't feel they have a voice, or they're getting priced out of their homes, they're getting priced out of their businesses. And that's not right. So they're not being heard. Another big issue in my district is transportation. This district is probably the worst place in the United States for parking and for the amount of car traffic in the
Okay.
country. So we need to invest heavily. in public transportation, more bike paths. Which, to the credit to some of the local municipalities, they have been doing this, like with the bike paths.
Okay.
Hoboken, Jersey City have taken the lead on that a little
Yes,
bit.
yes, they have. Yeah.
So to that credit, I got to give credit where credit's due. But we need more of that, and we need to transition to that green energy economy, or else I don't know. I don't know where these cars are going to go because already canvassing in my district, like it's not the
Mhm.
same as any other district you may hear about. You got to get there early, and then you drive around for half hour trying to find a parking spot. Or sometimes it's like, okay, my field director double parks the car. I get out, do what I got to do, and then we just keep it moving that way in certain areas. So it's very heavily congested. The way my district is drawn up, it's a heavy Latino population.
Okay.
And what's on their minds? It's jobs. It's being able to raise a family. It's the paycheck. It's those bread and butter issues. You know,
Right.
when my father first came here to the United States, it was relatively easy to get a good manufacturing job in Elizabeth, New
Mhm.
Jersey, with a pension, with a union, with good benefits for your family, that you could become middle class relatively quickly. And no, you didn't need to have a college degree.
Right.
And hell, you didn't even need to have a high school degree sometimes.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think what's interesting, you know, this might get me on a slightly off tangent, but it all goes together,
No,
I
no, no, no,
promise.
no. Just talk. No, dude. We are like old friends. We are talking. We are catching up. Just go. It is fine. You're good. Go.
We're telling all our kids, go to college, go to college, go to college. And I think, yeah, that's good. Okay, go to college, but I'll get on that subject a little later. But we need to respect an ability of a worker to work. Workers need dignity. Anyone
Mhm.
that works in this country and puts in an honesty of work should be able to raise their family, should be able to live a decent middle class lifestyle, like in the past for many, many Americans. Like what we're talking about is not something crazy or bizarre. Like we're
Right.
talking about things that used to happen, used to be possible in our country. It used to be possible that with a high school diploma, you could get a decent, good job. And now most of those jobs, manufacturing jobs here in Elizabeth, all disappeared, replaced with retail jobs that pay minimum wage, minimum benefits, and what type of family or what type of lifestyle can you have? You shouldn't have
Right.
to be able to recite Shakespeare in order to make a middle class living. No disrespect to college or anything like that. But what I'm saying,
Mhm.
it needs to be both. For the student that wants to go to college, absolutely, they should be able to go, get their education, not come out in debt. But for the student that wants to work, there should be options for him or her as well. And that's not respected anymore in society. And I will be very honest, like my father, he doesn't have a degree. But that man could look
Okay.
at any car, any circuit or whatever, and fix it instantly. That's intelligence. That should be respected and dignified. And we need to respect those people with their talents. Like in education, we call it the multiple intelligences. Everyone has some sort of intelligence that they're good at. Okay, if you're telling me this, don't just give me lip service. Oh yeah, we respect all intelligences, and then measure our students by just how they do on math and reading. Like that's not respect for an individual's ability, which may be something different than just a traditional reading and writing or math
Mhm.
algorithm. It's just so much.
No, that is like that's brilliant analysis, right? Like what you just said is so crucial because you touch on so much. It so many areas of the country in general have seen those jobs dry up. They're very
Yeah,
hard to come by. My partner, he's a union iron worker, and we're here in Atlanta, and he was working in Indiana before, and he made way more doing the same exact job than what he makes now, and coming to Atlanta was like, why are we living in Atlanta? Because it's a pay cut for him, and he actually, he makes more money traveling to work up north elsewhere because it is so difficult with that type of that's a skilled construction position, but it's still tough for him. So we were talking. He was like, yeah, once upon a time, like you were just saying, you could come get a manufacturing job right out of high school, or even with like an eighth grade or some high school, or whatever, and you made a good wage. You made a good wage. You made a decent living. Your family was well taken care of, and everything was good. And now, everyone's touting all the jobs that have been created and added to the economy, but most of those jobs are low wage. They're
yep,
retail or service oriented. We're not replacing it with the same jobs. The other thing I like what you just said about respecting individuals' ability beyond, just the traditional. for lack of a better, for what I'm just thinking, I'm envisioning this from that traditional college prep mode. Because, there's been so much focus over the past 10 years or so on college prep only, and we got away from how there used to be vocational technical
Yes.
education in schools and stuff. Like, I remember that we had VOTech high schools when I was a kid. I remember that we had shop class when I was in junior high. And so, like, I remember we had those things, and now they don't exist really in school anymore. They're starting to come back to the specialty high schools a little bit, but even now some of those are magnet, right? So the kid who really could benefit from going to school and getting that technical experience may not necessarily be getting it because it's not available at the local neighborhood school where that person's being, shuttled into. So what you were just saying about how we need to take that all into consideration and providing people the tools that's necessary, that is just so, that is wonderful. So transportation, yeah, public transportation, I could, with
No.
driving, congestion, and then but the jobs piece. But I think that's what's so crucial. You said that your district is heavily Latino. A lot of people seem to think that if you're a Latino voter or a Black voter, you only vote about this one issue that's specifically related to race or ethnicity or whatever, and that's it, and that's all you care about. But from what you're saying, like, we have working class, everyday people, and they're concerned about taking care of their family just like everybody else. And I think the more people we have who understand that this is not just I'm in this one box over here, but
Right.
there's a multitude of issues. The more we start working from that position, I think the better off we'll be. So let's talk about so your election is New Jersey primary day
Yep.
as
Two
well.
weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Whew.
How has it been? Because you're still, I mean, you guys are still in school too, right? So
Yeah.
how has it been? So you're still teaching and you're running for office. How has that been?
It's been a roller coaster ride. Lots of coffee, lots of Red Bull. My nice little organic healthy diet for the last like 8 months has gone out the window. Me going to the gym has gone out the window. So it's been a sacrifice. In the beginning, my team and I, we got together. We made mistakes. We were learning. We were learning as we go. Now we're on the ground running. Like, we're connecting with voters. We've canvassed so many areas already. We're doing the phone banking. We're doing door
Okay.
knocking. Like, before I'm in this interview, I was out there as soon as after school ends, I go out. I had volunteers in other cities. Like, we're covering the district and we're getting the message out there one way or
Okay.
another. And I think it's so important, especially in an urban area, to provide residents a progressive choice. Because what people get twisted is that, oh, heavily Democratic areas, like, well, why do we need progressive outreach? No, if you look at where as a progressive base, where we falter, it's in our urban centers. And why is that? Okay, if I go to a voter and just, let's say, talk
Mhm.
about climate change right away, that may not connect with them because they want to know, I need a job to raise my kid. How do I do that? And they're used to saying, okay, I know that the Democratic Party is the working class party, so I just got to be Democratic. So they don't have
Right. Right.
they don't have access to alternate sources of media. We can't fault them for that. Like, a lot of my residents are not looking at the alternate sources of media for information on positions on people, Bernie Sanders versus Hillary, et cetera, et cetera. We
Right.
can't fault them for that. We need to meet people where they are, and we need to outreach in these communities. We need to have more people running for offices from the progressive wing of the party, bringing the message directly to them to bring that educational piece. Like, in New Jersey, we have this bracketing issue, which,
Okay.
let me explain what that means. So then, even though
Yeah.
it's a primary, the county chairman of whatever district you're in award the party line to someone. So, for
Oh.
example, Hillary in
Okay.
my district has line A. My opponent is under her in line A. And
Okay.
that's like the official Democratic line, to the point, and this is a small minority of voters. I was canvassing a man today, and he was very open, receptive to the message, and then he said, are you on the Democratic official line? I said, I'm a Democrat in line C. He's like, okay,
Interesting.
take your flyer back. That's what we're
Hmm.
combating in New Jersey. It's, if you're connected through the machine,
Hmm.
for example, that's what they call it. Like, if you have a job that's in public service, like, you may have loyalty to that line because you know it pays your bills. Like, no
Right.
disrespect, but we could change that. We can make it a real primary so that you just see two individuals are running for the Democratic nominee. Period. No one has the
Right.
official line. Here are two names. That's an issue we have in New Jersey that many people are not aware of, and that gives power to incumbents, or even incumbents that don't have good name recognition. They're just in a favorable
Right.
position on the line, and they are the official Democrats, whatever that means, and people just vote that way. So it's that educational piece, and it's finding all those components and addressing them, and that's how we'll build a real progressive movement in our urban centers specifically.
That's less. I want to like talk about like urban centers because you were just touching on it, like how I think what you're saying, because we've seen this, like, kind of stepping away from your race a little bit, just I'm going to go back and forth between yours and Bernie Sanders, because just what you're saying is exactly right, right? Like, how do we, because even as we talk about next steps, right, how do
Right.
we build that strength for progressivism, for a progressive movement, when we're looking at our urban centers, which are going to be a large potential voting base, right? And what you're saying is, yeah, like doing that time and investing in the outreach to actually speak to people, climate change, exactly what you're saying. Campaign finance reform, these are really great, wonderful, noble ideas. But what does that mean for, the mother, the working mother with 3 kids trying to make ends meet? Like, what does that mean on the local? Like, I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Like, you got to break it down and talk to people where they
Exactly.
are. You can bring them along with you so they kind of come further along in the issues, but you got to meet them where they are and help them come along.
Exactly.
Um, so you were just talking about the line, and I didn't realize that's what it was called because I did talk to Peter Jacobs before, and he kind of looked up for being on the
Yes.
official line. He looked up. Peter
He's my
looked up.
boy, by the way.
Huh?
That's my boy, Peter Jacob, and I were very
Oh,
close.
awesome! Yay, Jersey love, awesome!
Yeah.
Like you guys, like I'm so impressed. Like I'm just like blown away, seriously. So I was so thankful that you had, because I know you guys are campaigning and stuff. So I'm like, this is awesome that you're taking the time to speak to me tonight. But he looked up into his position, but what you were just saying about how there's an official line, and that it just seems like voters almost seem to think that that means more about the value of what they're getting for their vote than if they take a chance on someone who's not on that official line and roster. And we do need to break through that. So how have you all, like how has it been, getting out there and working with voters? I know you're saying it's only a small section, but how has it been trying to work around that in your
Emphasizing
process?
that, like in my district, emphasizing that I am a Democrat. Like that's the
Hmm.
key word. Like even the title I picked, my slogan on the ballot, it's Democrats for Progress. So the progress is for my progressive, so that they know, yes, I'm one of you. But for that voter that votes in every election, but they don't have the alternative source of media. They just know Democrats are the better party in their head, right?
Yes.
They need to see that title. When I'm even canvassing for Bernie, I
Hmm.
say he's a Democrat, and that eases the anxiety towards him to the voter I'm talking to a little bit, especially the
Hmm.
Latino voter that like Cuba. I'm Cuban. I'm half Cuban.
Okay. Okay.
The democratic socialism thing, do not describe it as democratic socialism for an older Cuban. Just don't go there. Just don't go there. If you're talking about college affordability, if you're talking about jobs, if you're talking about higher minimum wage, they're all for it. They're all
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
It's just that, because of the past history as Fidel Castro and all that, just don't
Right.
go
Right.
there. It's
Right.
not even
Right.
necessary. And it's understanding that and understanding your populace of who you're trying to appeal to. Because it's
Hmm.
like, for example, it's very common that if you're not on the line, you get tagged as a Republican in the race when you're not a Republican.
Oh.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. For example, there's a couple local races in other cities
Hmm.
at the local level in my county, and the people on the line describe themselves as the real Democrats against other people who are not on the line, and they infer that they're Republicans. That's how you
Hmm.
scare people. Number one question I get when I'm door knocking on people's door: Are you a Republican? No, I'm a Democrat on line C. Remember line C. So yeah,
Oh
it's just
wow.
knowing those little things, and that's how you work your messaging to actually break through. But you got to know that. You can't just say, you got to meet people, like I said, you got to meet people where they are.
Right, right, right.
So,
Definitely. Definitely. So, what are some of the big takeaways? Like, if you just have your short, quick, and dirty stump, what do people need to know about you as they're going into the New Jersey primary in the next 2 weeks? Like, what is
I,
it you want to drive home?
I want to be a fierce advocate against the income inequality that we're seeing. I want to help be a voice for workers, no matter what type of work they're in. I want to know that when my students are applying to go to college, that I can say to them in good faith, yes, it is worth it to go in college and you'll come out with a degree without being burdened for the rest of your life with student debt. Because it honestly breaks my heart when I'm helping students fill out those FAFSAs and I see
Mm-hmm.
that gap already before, and that's the federal gap, which is always a little smaller than what it really is going to be. How many
Yep.
loans are going to have to take out in addition to the federal loans that they already have? That's part of the package. And what we're doing to I'm a millennial, but to the younger generation, it's getting even worse.
Yeah.
It's getting even worse. So I want to be able to say to that generation, those students, yes, if you go to college or to a vocational school, it will be worth it. I want to make sure we have an economy that's balanced, that's not tilted just for certain jobs or finance or
Mm-hmm.
tech, that it respects all workers and that all workers can live in dignity. I want to be able to give my kids a world that will still be here, that we transition to a green energy economy that can provide the jobs. That's the hook for the urban
Right.
centers. We can have a green energy revolution that provides jobs in our urban centers for our current residents while still helping our planet defeat global warming and slow down global warming. Those things are not mutually exclusive. We could combine these goals together. I want to be able to say to people going into education, you will have a voice. You won't be blamed for the ills of poverty. We will be your partners in helping make strong communities so that we can have strong schools. Because this nonsense of the last 10, 15 years that, oh, it's all about raising the standards, raising the rigor. Listen, my kid can't study if their best friend just got shot the other day. All right?
Woo! Yo, like that is. I love you. That is just so real though. But no, seriously. Like more standards, more tests, more this, more that. That is not changing, like you're saying, it's not changing what's happening out on the streets.
No.
That's not changing, whether or not kids are even have the help at home they need. And not because their parents don't care, but because parents are working really hard to make ends meet because jobs just don't pay what they used to. I mean, there's so many different reasons. Whether schools have even the resources, does the kid even have a book to bring home,
Right.
to read? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That was just so real. I had to like, woo.
I mean,
um,
I have students that I teach a very great class, Intro to Education. It's for people that may want to be future educators in the future. I have students in that class that are working 2 to 3 jobs already that come to school sleep deprived. And yes, I'm in their face. I'm like, all right, you got to finish your project. You got to finish your project. So yeah,
mhm,
the class, if you look at it at a glance, it's a different style of class. But those students from this urban area, they went to a conference with students from
mhm,
affluent districts. They were the most professionally dressed. They were the most prepared. So yeah, you could come into my class and think they're just macking or whatever, but they're getting their
mhm,
work done. Yes, it takes me motivating them a little extra, but they're great kids with
mhm.
such great potential. They have to finish one more paper. I know they got prom this week. They just got to get on one more paper, guys. But they have kids with such great potential that if we just find that talent and that spark and honor it and respect it and know their stories. Like I just got this class in January and I've heard so many of their personal stories that has
Mhm.
broken my heart, uplifted me, and listen to them. Then we could start making progress. We gotta treat the whole child, the holistic, their social, their emotional, meet them again where they are. And yes, at the same time, helping them with their skills. But don't come down on a middle class profession, the teachers, and saying, oh, well, Johnny or whatever didn't get a 5 on the standardized test score. You must be ineffective. Help the teachers. Help the teachers understand what it's like to grow up in an urban environment where there's a lack of resources, where you have to work 2 to 3 jobs. That's the type of training our teachers need, not how to write this damn essay another way, change it
Right,
from
right,
persuasive to
right.
argumentative or whatever the terms always change. We got to treat the whole child. So I want to be an advocate for all middle class professions like teachers. I want to be an advocate allowing workers to unionize so that they have a voice in their workplace. Honestly, we're at such a pinnacle point in our history. Are we going to invest in our people, in all our brothers and sisters, and look at each other as brothers and sisters and make sure we can uplift each other? Or are we going to continue the path that we've been on? The path where wealth is increasingly concentrated at the top. Our middle class is now 43% and shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see much more hate. You're going to see much more racism, for example, because people always find something to blame. You're going to see a lot more conflict within communities, because when you have poverty, you have crime, you have conflict. Poverty is worse than crack. The mental stress of poverty is just unbearable, and people need to understand that. We have a chance right now with the movement that is going on. There is a progressive movement alive to change the direction of this country. And I want to shout out to all the progressives. Please do not get disengaged no matter what happens on June 7th. Stay involved. Stay tuned to, like, don't just leave. Yep. Don't just leave and say, okay, I'm done with voting, I'm done with this. No, that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to disengage. Don't disengage. Stay involved. Find local candidates who are progressives and uplift them. Because we could work together. We can make a change in this country. It just takes us believing in each other and actually doing the hard work and sticking to it.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining me. I'm about out of time for the evening, but I thank you so much because, woo, this has been great. And regardless, I definitely want to keep in touch and continue to talk with you guys, with you, your staff, everybody out there, because this is work that we need to keep doing past this election cycle. So I wish you the best, sending up for you, because we need you in there. So thank you so much for joining this evening.
No, thank you for giving me this platform to get my voice out there. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.